Hey everybody, real quick, I want to give you 6 proofs that the resurrection of Jesus Christ really happened. Hey, let's just say that a non-believer came to you and asked you, so how can you prove that Jesus really rose from the grave? Well, hey, here's 6 things real quick that I can give you that really mean a lot to me. Number 1, the first one is the proof of history. Now, as far as history is concerned, we accept the fact that Hannibal crossed the Alps and was defeated by Rome. Or maybe even that Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon and was eventually assassinated. But on what basis do we accept these facts? We accept them simply by written testimony of the historians. Some of them only have like one documented, manuscript about this, but hey, we still believe that. But hey, as far as other ancient historical events, they're not very extensive. But whenever it comes to the death, the life, the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ, did you know that there are more than 5,000 manuscripts, ancient manuscripts, that testify to the life, the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ? Hey, one of them that really kind of sticks out to me a lot is Josephus. Josephus, he was a first century historian. And here's what he said. He wasn't a believer. He was a secular historian. He wasn't a Christian, but here's what he said. Listen to this. He said this, "Now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man, for he was a doer of wonderful works, a teacher of such men as received the truth with pleasure. He drew over to him both many of the Jews and many of the Gentiles. He was the Christ. And when Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men amongst us, had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him at the first did not forsake him, for he appeared to them alive again the third day, as the divine prophets had foretold these and 10,000 other wonderful things concerning him. And the tribe of Christians, so named for him, they are not extinct today." Now, that's the first one. Number 2, the second proof of Jesus' resurrection from the dead is the New Testament writers were Jewish. Now, here's why that's important, because as Jews, they believed they were already God's chosen people. And for them to write about the resurrection of Jesus, well, they're essentially saying Jesus is God, which he is. But here's what you have to realize. These Jewish men that wrote that, well, first of all, they were excommunicated from the synagogue. They were beaten. Most of them were executed themselves. So, this is a big deal for them to, not just to believe this, but to write this and to live this and to be willing to die for it. You see, because, very few people will die for a lie. They know it's a lie. Every single one of these men, they hung on to the truth, the resurrection of Jesus, all the way to the end. Many of them, they were executed for being Christians. And here's another interesting aspect. There were thousands of Christians before the first line of the New Testament was written. So here's what you have to understand. The writings of the New Testament did not invent the resurrection. The resurrection is what sparked the writings of the New Testament. The resurrection is the event that started this whole thing. This is what this is the foundation of Christianity, is the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The foundation which the scriptures are built upon. The scriptures that are so important to us, without the resurrection, there would be no scriptures. So that was number 2. Number 3, the third proof of Jesus' resurrection is the number and quality of supportive witnesses. Now, in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 6, Paul talks about more than 500 people seeing the resurrected Jesus. Now, here's what's interesting, is that not a single one of them reneged on that. So, what the Apostle Paul was doing is that Paul pretty much was saying, hey, here they are. So if any of them said, no, we didn't see that, then they had plenty of time to come forward and say, no, the Apostle Paul is not telling the truth. I didn't see him. But no one reneged on that. They all many of them were martyred once again for their belief in what they saw, which was the resurrected Christ. So that's the third. Number 4, the fourth proof of Jesus' resurrection is the lack of reasonable rebuttal of the resurrection. Okay, so in AD 55, when Paul wrote that in Corinthians, what he did is he threw down the gauntlet. He pretty much said, hey, if you have got proof that Jesus did not resurrect from the grave, then bring it forward. And no one ever did. Almost 2,000 years later, still, no one has ever been able to come forward with the proof that Jesus did not resurrect back to life again, because if they did, secular society would grab a hold of that and we would all know about it. So, the fifth proof of Jesus' resurrection is the conversion of a skeptic, and what a skeptic he was. And the skeptic I'm talking about is a man by the name of Saul of Tarsus that was converted and became the Apostle Paul, who has written half of the New Testament. Now, before the Apostle Paul was converted, he's written extensively about the fact how that he was as far from believing the resurrection as anybody could be. Matter of fact, he was persecuting the church. He was trying his best as a Jewish rabbi to destroy the early Christian church. And he talks about this in Acts chapter 26. I'm going to read verse 13 and 15. This is whenever the Apostle Paul is talking to King Agrippa, and he's giving him his testimony, and he's talking about his experience whenever he was going to persecute the church, his experience of seeing the resurrected Lord. Here's what he said. King Agrippa, while on the road at midday, I saw a light from heaven, brighter than the sun, shining around me and those traveling with me. We all fell to the ground, and I heard a voice speaking to me in Aramaic, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads. I asked, who are you, Lord? And the Lord replied, I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting. Now here's the thing. God did not confine the evidence of Jesus' resurrection to the believers. He went to the skeptics. The biggest skeptic of all, Saul of Tarsus. And whenever he was converted, man, that was an explosion there. And here's another thing too you have to realize, is that Jesus' half-brother James, he was a skeptic also until after the resurrection. And then he became a believer as well. Do you see how vital it is for us, for our faith, to understand that, hey, the resurrection, this is a viable fact that's proven from history. So, the sixth and final, and this is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination, but to me, these six are ones that I really hang on to. And the sixth, and to me, the most important one, is the ongoing experience of the resurrected Jesus Christ. And what I mean by that is that millions and millions of believers like me and many of you, we have and are experiencing the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It isn't just something that is a historical event, even though it was, but it's also a current event that's bringing life transformation to our lives. Now, that's a huge proof right there. It's something that we have experienced. Now, here's what Jesus said to the disciples in John 20:29. And he's talking to them. He said, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet they believe. Now I know that you could be saying, somebody could say, hey David, listen man, calm down. We are saved by grace through faith. I don't need proof of the resurrection. Well, here's my answer to that. See, we all need our faith in Christ to be robust, to be strong when hard times hit. Because when hard times hit, man, the waves come over the edge of the boat and life gets hard. Man, that's when the waves of doubt and all these things that attack our mind and our heart, we need a strong, robust faith. And see, my purpose in sharing this with you today, and the purpose of all these historical facts that prove the resurrection of Jesus, is so that we can be stronger and more robust in our faith. When hard times hit, we are prepared then. Hey, listen, here is the foundation of our faith in Christ. It is built upon the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It is a fact. And not only is it a fact, It is a proven fact that Jesus rose from the grave and that Jesus is alive today. And not only is he alive today, but he's alive and well in those of us who are in Christ Jesus. He's alive and well in us today. What a great fact that is. Hey, God bless you today, and I pray that this will help you to grow and to strengthen yourself in Christ Jesus and to grow in your faith. God bless you guys.